you shouldn't believe everything that you're told in our mainstream media here in America. And it's because not that long ago, it was quietly sneaked into the passage of the NDAA that propaganda would be legal. That means propaganda use, government propaganda against the citizens. But if you did believe everything that our mainstream media is saying, you would have to agree we live in a dystopic Orwellian ball of crazy. While you have hordes of smartphone zombies just stumbling around in people's yards,
not only standing outside my house, but looking at my house through their phones.
In the CIA-linked game Pokemon Go, literally walking off of cliffs,
over the edge of a bluff off of E Street. The guys fell between 50 and 80 feet down Wednesday afternoon. The San Diego Sheriff's Department says it happened because they were searching for virtual Pokemon. That's right, the guys told deputies they were playing the Pokemon Go game on their cell phones.
This is our 15-year-old daughter, Autumn Deisenroth, recovering from injuries after she was hit by a car. The teenager says Pokemon Go took her across a busy intersection,
wandering into dangerous power stations in some augmented reality. The stuff that's actually happening in supposed reality seems augmented. You have so many police shooting videos being released on a near daily basis that no one can even keep up with what in the hell is going on in this country anymore. While the media continues to spin this as if it's only an African American problem, it's only African Americans being shot by police, because they can no longer just play down the fact that cops are shooting lots and lots of people. The majority of people shot by cops are actually Caucasian, which is a glaring inconsistency in the whole race-baiting, race war agenda that wants to divide us amongst ourselves on race lines so we fight with each other instead of against the establishment and the elite who are clearly sucking all of the wealth out of this country.
The bottom 40% of Americans barely have any of the wealth. I mean, it's hard to even see them on the chart.
And they're trying to avoid a class war by pushing a race war.
But the top 1% has more of the country's wealth than 9 out of 10 Americans believe the entire top 20% should have.
The majority of the nation's livelihoods are being sucked right out from under them, just like that giant sucking sound Ross Perot warned us about.
There will be a giant sucking sound going south.
Times about a billion.
And I said, well, how does it stop being disruptive? And that is when their jobs come up from $1 an hour to $6 an hour and ours go down to $6 an hour, then it's leveled again. But in the meantime, you've wrecked the country with these kinds of deals.
Cops aren't just shooting people, they're also shooting pets at the wrong house, at a 5-year-old's birthday party in front of his friends.
Police chief said the shooting was justified, that the dog attacked the officer coming around the house. But this video taken after the shooting shows the dog dead by the gate, not near the house. The police chief said he hadn't seen the video. And as for that warrant, well, it's for a case 10 years ago. When the first shot didn't kill Opie, the officer used a high-powered rifle to put him down. Eli Malone says he can't forget watching the officer shoot his dog.
It's actually to the point that other countries like the United Arab Emirates and the Bahamas are issuing official travel warnings to their citizens because America is a dangerous police state and the world is aware of it. When Case Western Reserve University recently agreed to house 1,900 officers for security at the RNC, the campus essentially had to close down for the week because the students felt unsafe. They felt unsafe at a location that had 1,900 officers housed at it. That should be like the safest place in America, really, if you think about it in superficial terms, and they felt unsafe. And just to go ahead and prove all those people wrong who say, but if I'm not doing anything wrong, I don't have anything to worry about.
As long as I got my hands up, they're not going to shoot me. This is what I'm thinking. They're not going to shoot me. Wow, was I wrong?
You're wrong. You do have something to worry about, because police even shot an innocent man lying on the ground with his hands in the air after he told them he was a behavioral therapist and his autistic client holding a toy truck had wandered away from their group home and was unarmed.
A 911 caller Monday reported that someone with a gun was threatening suicide, and when police arrived, guns drawn, the therapist talking to the officers.
After yelling all of this information at the police, and after it was clearly obvious that the autistic guy was holding not a gun, but a white toy truck. Police claim they shot the unarmed behavioral therapist by accident because they actually meant to shoot the unarmed autistic guy.
The Union chief says the officer who fired his gun thought Kinsey was in danger and meant to hit the young man with autism,
who apparently, for some reason, they thought posed a danger to his unarmed behavioral therapist with his hands in the air.
Sir, why did you shoot me? And his words to me, he said, I don't know.
The moral of the story is, if you run away from police, you're probably going to get shot. If you stay and comply because you're innocent and you did nothing wrong, you might also get shot. While a man who was kept at Guantanamo Bay for 14 years without ever having been charged for a crime that whole time was finally scheduled to be released after his former Guantanamo Bay guard, wrote a letter saying, "You should release him. I was the guard." The Western intelligence agency created and backed Free Syrian Army videotaped themselves beheading a 12-year-old Palestinian boy.
Who's going to vet these people?
Well, first of all, I vetted a number of them because I know them.
And it took several days for our government to come out and go, maybe we should stop sending them giant bags of money and guns. That might be bad to do. As the war on terror that funds and creates terrorists at one end and fights them on the other continues, innocent Americans continue to miss their flights so they can be treated like terrorist criminals by the TSA at the airport. And it came out earlier this week that half of all agents of the TSA have been cited for misconduct at least once. Half. And a third have been cited multiple times for misconduct.
Are you fucking kidding me, TSA? What the fuck?
Now, on the doublespeak side of things, you actually had Shep Smith of Fox News live on air criticizing Governor Bobby Jindal multiple times for using the divisive phrase, "all lives matter," because Jindal dared to say we've got to look beyond race because all lives matter.
Brown, red, it doesn't matter. All lives matter. We've got to protect and value our police.
Governor, you know that phrase you just used is one that's seen by many as derogatory, right? And I just wonder why it is that you use that phrase when there's a certain segment of the population that believes it's a real dig on them.
Well, Shepard, it's not meant to be. The point is this: we've got to move beyond race. It is a good time to remember we're all made in his image, and what unites us is greater than what divides us. We shouldn't be divided. There's too much division in our country, and too many folks try to exploit those divisions for their own purposes, whether it's by race or all lives matter. We're all in this together.
I don't understand why Governor, why do you say that?
So all lives matter is apparently divisive, but breaking us all down on racial lines into groups and then weighing out whose life matters more and specifically focusing on that group is somehow not divisive. All lives matter, we should unite and look beyond race. That's divisive.
You know, that's a very, very divisive phrase that a lot of people hear and become really upset about it. I just wonder why you keep using it.
Well, Shepard, but they shouldn't be. I mean, that's my point.
But they
Blue
are.
lives matter, police lives matter.
Not really sure how that works. Meanwhile, actress Charlize Theron used her speech at the 21st International AIDS Conference in South Africa to let people know that HIV is actually transmitted by racism and sexism and homophobia.
HIV is not just transmitted by sex. It's transmitted by sexism, racism, poverty, and homophobia.
So, next time you think about saying something about how all the women need to get back in the kitchen, just realize you may be transmitting HIV, according to actress Charlize Theron. Although she wasn't actually clear on whether or not you transmit it to the people that you're being sexist against, or if you get it because you're sexist, or if you're racist. I don't know. She didn't actually explain or clarify. Just not really sure exactly how that works. And as schools increasingly become places where kids are taught, engineered, trained that they're not allowed to make any decisions whatsoever without the permission of authority.
We turned it into a teaching moment and taught them that even if you don't agree with it or don't understand it, you must respect authority.
A school in Sydney, Australia banned clapping at assemblies because it might upset sensitive people but they will allow silent cheers instead. A release issued by the school stated that kids could be free to punch the air, pull excited faces, and wriggle about on the spot. That is, of course, until punching the air gets banned for promoting violence. Pulling faces gets banned by people who get offended by pulling faces. And wriggling on the spot gets determined to be a microaggression. Just a reminder, this is a country where an all-girls school actually banned the words ladies and women to describe females because it's not inclusive enough at an all-girls school.
Teachers at an all-female school in Sydney have been told to stop referring to their students as girls, ladies or women. The teachers were told they would be breaking the law and considered homophobic if they didn't support the decision.
And they also banned the word black from the song Ba Ba Black Sheep. So I guess it's
Ba Ba Sheep, have you any wool of no particular color because that might be racist.
Our mainstream media outlets are now straight up telling us how corrupt our government is. The Washington Times reported in simplistic date-by-date format instances of corruption in plain sight. They didn't say hiding in plain sight. They said corruption in plain sight. It's there, here it is, here's the definition of corruption, here's how corrupt it is. While mainstream outlets in other countries like the India Times are, without mincing any words at all, openly reporting that their monsoons are being manipulated by U.S. military weather modification weapons to screw up the nation's crop harvest and blame it on climate change. They just said it. They're just openly saying it now. Of course, they're not reporting that here at all. They're just ignoring it completely. But the fact that that's making the front pages of mainstream outlets in other countries is pretty insane. What else is going on? We got Chinese scientists pioneering the first human gene editing trial, so I guess Gattaca is going to meet Divergent Allegiant pretty soon.
What can it mean? The ability to perfect the physical and mental characteristics of every unborn child.
And you had the failed Turkey coup, which looks all kinds of staged, but how else can a dictator justify purging tens of thousands of people who just really don't like him without a fake coup? And finally, while the CIA-linked Pokemon Go is just a stepping stone to ease us into an augmented reality, government intelligence outlet Google is actually working on a virtual reality platform called Project Daydream and a headset that's going to mix augmented and virtual reality together so that just all the lines between everything, reality, augmented reality, virtual reality, it's all just blurry. You don't know the difference anymore. Once the people in charge get done screwing up actual reality so badly that everyone thinks it just sucks to be here, people will be much more willing to just jack themselves right into the government-created matrix. But who really cares about any of that when you have the unmitigated disaster nightmare scenario from hell that is Chick-fil-A getting rid of the spicy chicken biscuit off of their breakfast menu? Just a nightmare of Faustian proportions, as evidenced by the R.I.P. Chick-fil-A spicy chicken biscuit tribute videos up on YouTube set to Sarah McLachlan's song Angel that's typically only featured in those ASPCA tear-jerking animal cruelty ads about the mistreated dogs that no one loves. I, for one, am going to go catch a Jigglypuff in my neighbor's front yard if I can manage to get there without walking out into traffic. While the media continues to spin this as if it's only an African American problem, it's only African Americans being shot by police, because they can no longer just play down the fact that cops are shooting lots and lots of people. The majority of people shot by cops are actually Caucasian, which is a glaring inconsistency in the whole race-baiting, race war agenda that wants to divide us amongst ourselves on race lines so we fight with each other instead of against the establishment and the elite who are clearly sucking all of the wealth out of this country.
The bottom deputies, they were playing the Pokemon Go game on their cell phones.
This is our 15-year-old daughter, Autumn Dystopia, recovering from injuries after she was hit by a car. The teenager says Pokemon Go took her across a busy intersection,
wandering into dangerous power stations in some augmented reality. The stuff that's actually happening in supposed reality seems augmented. You have so many police shooting videos being released on a near daily basis that no one can even keep up with what in the hell is going on in this country anymore. We live in a dystopic Orwellian ball of crazy. While you have hordes of smartphone zombies just stumbling around in people's yards.
Not only standing outside my house, but looking at my house through their phone.
In the CIA-linked game Pokemon Go, literally walking off of cliffs.
Over the edge of a bluff off of E Street. The guys fell between 50 and 80 feet down Wednesday afternoon. The San Diego Sheriff's Department says it happened because they were searching for virtual Pokemon. That's right, the guys told...
There's a reason you shouldn't believe everything that you're told in our mainstream media here in America, and it's because not that long ago, it was quietly sneaked into the passage of the NDAA that propaganda would be legal. That means propaganda use, government propaganda against the citizens. But if you did believe everything that our mainstream media is saying, you would have to agree.
40% of Americans barely have any of the wealth. I mean, it's hard to even see them on the chart.
And they're trying to avoid a class war by pushing a race war.
But the top 1% has more of the country's wealth than 9 out of 10 Americans believe the entire top 20% should have.
The majority of the nation's livelihoods are being sucked right out from under them, just like that giant sucking sound Ross Perot warned us about.
There will be a giant sucking sound going south.
Times about a billion.
And I said, well, how does it stop being